So, yeah, it's pretty safe to say that I did not like Library of Arena or Limbus Company the first time I played it. Or the second time I played them, actually. I did not like the games, well, maybe not at all, okay? Maybe hate is a little bit of a strong word for me to be throwing out at these two games, but I think it's pretty safe to say that I did not like them, okay? Maybe hate is a justified word to throw at Limbus Company, but a Library of Arena, it's a little less justified. But it's pretty safe to say that I was disappointed with both of the games the first time I played them. And today, in this video, I want to yap about exactly why that is. And I'm going to start with Library of Arena. But before I start with Library of Arena, I want to say that I'm going to say some pretty outrageous fucking things in this video, okay? So if you guys think I'm totally wrong, and that my opinions in this game are totally wrong, then you're welcome to go down in the comments and tell me exactly why. But anyways, starting with Library of Arena, I have been a fan of the Project Moon universe for quite a while now. I started playing Lobotomy Corporation, which is the prequel to Library of Arena. I started playing it like 2 years ago, I think, and it took me quite a while to finish it, because originally I wasn't totally sold on the game, right? 2 years ago, I bought the game. I played like, I don't know, the first like fucking 6 to 10 days or something, and then I completely abandoned the game for like a year. And then a year later, I returned to it and I beat it, and holy fucking shit, it instantly became my most favorite game I've ever played. I think in my entire life, right? Maybe it was not like the most fun game I've ever played or anything like that, but I think it was a pretty damn meaningful game, right? It set out to do It did exactly what it set out to do and then some, right? Lobotomy Corporation wasn't really a game that was made to be like, you know, played for fun or anything like that. I mean, the game is still fun, you know, it's still entertaining to play, you know, it's not like fucking, I don't know, super boring or whatever, right? It's still pretty entertaining to play. But it more set out to be like a story, right? It more set out to tell a story and to give you like a meaningful experience, right? And I think it did exactly that, right? It became my favorite game because of exactly that. It became my favorite game because it told a damn good fucking story, man. And the story genuinely changed me as a person, right? Like, I fucking cried while playing Lobotomy Corporation at multiple points. Especially at that ending. Like, if you know, you know, bro. I fucking cried at the game. I felt something for each and every one of the characters, and it was just an awesome game. It was a really, really great game. And again, it was my favorite game. And yeah, I played it, I got finished with it, I really loved it, and then I heard that Library of Arena exists, and so, you know, since Lobotomy Corporation changed my views in love and the world itself and friendships and like general relationships and death and a bunch of other things. Since Lobotomy Corporation was such a life-changing game for me, I thought that Library of Arena might be the same, you know? And so when I heard that Library of Arena exists and that it's a sequel to Lobotomy Corporation, I was eager to jump onto it, right? And after a couple of months of, just taking a little bit of a break from Lobotomy Corporation, I did eventually decide to jump onto Library of Arena. And yeah, it was not Lobotomy Corporation at all. It was nothing like Lobotomy Corporation at all. It did not really change my views on anything. It was just kind of there. It was a good game, right? If you compare Library of Arena to pretty much any other game out there, I think you would probably agree that Library of Arena is better than whatever game you're comparing it to. But the problem is that it's meant to be a sequel to the best game ever, and if it doesn't meet the impossible standards of the best game ever, then it's just not a good sequel. And I think the main reason why Library of Arena doesn't reach the heights that Lobotomy Corporation did is mainly because of Roland. And I know this might piss some people off, because people really, really love Roland in Library of Arena. But I personally don't, and I think he's the weakest character in the entire library, and I personally don't even think he deserves to be in the library, right? Because, it kind of feels fucked up to say, because me saying that he doesn't deserve to be in the library kind of feels like you know, Aang saying that Angela doesn't deserve to be at the ending of Lobotomy Corporation. So I kind of feel fucked up saying that. But my justification for that is just the fact that, like, Roland is like a random dude that doesn't really add a lot to the story of Library of Arena, right? And for some reason, he's still like a part of the ending. He's still a part of like retrieving the Seed of Light. He's still a part of this whole story, despite the fact that he's just there, right? Like it's kind of weird because like for most of the story, what Roland does, like Roland to me never really felt like a character until like the very ending, or until like some of his realization scenes, right? When you got to go through like a whole final realization boss fight, you know, like with Tifereth and Geborah and Chesed and Bina and all those people, you know. Outside of those like realization cutscenes, Roland never to me really felt like a character in Library of Arena, and he more to me felt like a vessel that was like meant to catch up the people who haven't played Lobotomy Corporation up to speed of this story, right? Because like for half the game, like you have all these like super deep characters in the story of the Library of Arena, right? You have Angela, obviously, like, you know, the character that the whole story rotates around. You have Angela. You have like all the other librarians who get their story from Lobotomy Corporation even more expanded and even more fleshed out. And you have so many of these interesting characters in the library who do so much of the story. And then you have this guy, Roland, who just, for no fucking reason, just shows up in every fucking cutscene. And he's like, for example, he goes up to Yesud's floor, right? And he's like, hey, Yesud, you know, I heard from Malkuth that apparently you guys had like 3 lives, right? You guys died twice before getting revived in the library, right? Hey, Yesud, can you go and explain a little bit about what that means, you know, to the player of the game? Because I think the player is like quite confused right now. So, Yesud, can you please explain, you know, how it's possible for you to have like 3 lives and come back to life in the library? Like, can you explain that to the player? And like that's kind of like what it felt to me like Roland was doing for half the story, right? He wasn't like really like he didn't seem like interested in any of this, right? I mean, to be fair, he kind of I guess before the library he was on a rampage, right? He was on a big ass fucking rampage, just killing everyone and like doing all sorts of like crazy jobs because he was like grieving over his dead wife, and he just like fucking wanted to kill everyone and get his revenge on the world. So it kind of makes sense that he wasn't too interested in the story of you know, all these librarians and whatever the hell was going on in the library. But like, I don't know if this is just me, but to me he just genuinely seemed so uninterested in like any of this. And he was only asking like very surface level questions as like a story element, or like a device to get the player caught up to the story of Library of Arena, just in case they didn't play Lobotomy Corporation, right? And for half the story, he was just asking the librarians these questions like, "Oh my god, guys, like people died? Like you guys used to work at this big corporation and people died in it, and like you suffered? Like, whoa, that's crazy." Right? Like that's all he was doing for like half the story. And he just genuinely seemed so uninterested, and it just like low-key kind of sucked, I'm not gonna lie. And it just kind of felt like Roland didn't really have a lot to add to any of these conversations. Like, again, my main problem is not the fact that he was asking questions about like the old lab, or like Lobotomy Corporation, or whatever the hell, because, you know, he's a new person to the library, right? He doesn't know any of these people, of course. So, like, he's gonna ask questions about their past, and they're gonna exchange their stories and whatnot. But it just kind of feels like, you know, Roland wasn't asking any of these questions about Lobotomy Corporation or the old lab out of his own volition, and it more felt like he was just asking these questions because the developers of the game wanted him to ask these questions, so that, like, the audience who was like consuming and reading the story of the game could understand what the hell is going on without having to like fully play through Lobotomy Corporation. And yeah, it just wasn't integrated very naturally, and it especially sucked because the friend that introduced me to this game and told me about this game and guided me through this game told me before playing it that this game is quote-unquote pretty much better than Lobotomy Corporation in every single way. And I assumed that that meant that the story was going to be better as well. Because again, the biggest part about Lobotomy Corporation was its story. Because it was trying to be a story-driven game. And it fucking succeeded at that, man. It was really fucking good, right? And then, since the story was the biggest part of Lobotomy Corporation, and this friend told me that Ruina is better than Lobotomy in pretty much every single way, I thought that that meant the story was going to be better too, but unfortunately I just got so disappointed by Roland and all his shenanigans throughout the story. And I just feel like he took a lot away from the story, right? Like, if he didn't exist, or if he wasn't, like, forced into every single cutscene that ever fucking existed, I feel like we could have gotten a lot more interactions between the different librarians, right? Because, like, in the original game, in Lobotomy Corporation, they didn't really get a lot of chances to interact with each other. Sure, sometimes they were talking to each other, but they didn't really have a lot of time to yap, right? Because they had a whole a Lobotomy Corporation to run. But in the library, things are a lot more relaxed, and they could actually, like, get to know each other again, and, like, talk to each other again, and, like, make peace with each other again. And instead, we just get this fucking guy fucking jamming himself into every cutscene for no reason and taking that away from us, right? And we could have, found out so much more about Angela's character and, all that stuff about her, and we could have had a lot of we could have found a lot of other things, minor things and personality traits of all the other librarians, but we didn't get to do any of that because Roland is the main character, so he has to be in every fucking cutscene ever, guys. And yeah, it just kind of pissed me the fuck off. But again, there wasn't really that's not really the whole story of Roland, right? Sure, for a good chunk of the game, he acts as, like, that fucking vessel to just tell people about the story of Lobotomy Corporation, like I just said, but it's not his whole story, because during his realization cutscenes, right, when you have the, like, big boss fight at the end of every floor in the library, during his realization cutscenes, he's set up to have, like, some really, really big ending to his character, or something really meaningful and really impactful, right? And, like, his cutscenes in the library during those realizations are so good. Like, for example, there's a Tifferet's cutscene, right? And Tifferet's cutscene is probably my most favorite Roland cutscene in the entirety of Library of Ruina, because it dives into, like, how Roland felt after his wife died. Like, obviously he was going through grief, and he was doing random shitty fixer jobs where he was just killing people for no reason because someone else didn't really like him. Then he was coming back to his home every day covered in the blood of strangers and just lying on this filthy ass bed in this filthy ass room that was just a little too big for one person. And there were beer cans rolling all over the floor, fucking cigarette ash everywhere. And it was miserable, right? It was really miserable. And the reason it was miserable is because the city is designed to make you miserable, right? If you live in the city, there are really only two things that you have to look forward to. And one of those things is either joining a big wing, which is like a mega corporation, or finding love. And both of those things, the way that city is designed in a way that both those things, no matter which one you want to do, or even if you want to do both of them, it's all designed to end in misery. Because if you join a wing, you're an expendable, right? You're an expendable employee, and you're probably gonna die within, like, the first maybe year of your work. And it's all gonna mean fucking nothing. And if you find love in the city, I mean, do I even need to say anything? If you find love in the city, bro, that love is gonna, either you're gonna die or she's gonna die, bro. Like, there's just no in between. Hey, you know what? If you're lucky, maybe both of you are gonna die, and it's all gonna be happily ever after, right? But that's really all there is to look forward to inside of the city. And once you lose your purpose, once you accomplish your goals and inevitably lose them all, there's really nothing else you can do. There's nothing to live for, there's nothing to do, there's nothing to expect. And the first time I played the game, I thought that this cutscene was setting up Roland to be a character who, for the first time in the history of the city, managed to find a second chance or a second purpose in life, you know? And I thought that was going to be a really good conclusion to this game. And, you know, it was going to be really, really meaningful. Because, again, like I said, after you lose your initial purpose, if you even have one in the city, there's just no coming back from that. And I thought that, you know, if we got the good ending, you know, where Angela decides to have a change of heart and release the light into the city, I thought that Roland was going to be like, I guess, the pioneer of hope in a way. I really don't know how to explain it, but I thought that he was going to be like the first person who managed to find a second chance in the city. And I thought that was really meaningful, right? I thought that was really cool and great. But eventually, when I got to the ending, I realized that the ending of Roland's story just mainly focused on his wife. And, you know, mainly focused about how he misses his wife. And then that's about it. That's all. That's his character. He misses his wife. And he wants to fucking kill Angela and destroy the library or something. Like, that's all his character is. There's nothing more to it, guys. You can go. You can pack up your stuff and fucking leave. But yeah, needless to say, I was pretty fucking disappointed by that ending. And listen, I know that this is gonna sound pretty heartless, but I do not mean it to sound heartless at all. Like, Roland is supposed to miss his wife, right? Like, he's not, like, forbidden from missing his wife. But the thing is that people go through so much worse in the city on such a more frequent basis. And besides that, Roland is like a seasoned combat veteran who already killed like fucking hundreds of people, probably. Like, maybe even approaching the 1,000 mark. And, you know, he's already seen death and destruction and all, and being desensitized to it all. And so have most other people in the city. And, like, and besides that, Roland's wife, from what I see in the story, died quite a long time ago. Like, not like 50 years ago or anything, but I'm pretty sure that by the time that the story starts, his wife has already been dead for quite some time, right? I'm pretty sure. And Roland inside the library has already had like plenty of time to like reflect on his actions and have crash outs and like go crazy style, you know, over his miserable life and his wife dying and everything. And, like, obviously he's gonna carry that grief with him for the rest of his life, but it's just kind of weird, if you catch my drift, that despite all of this, and despite the fact that he already distorted and, like, you know, got taken over by ego, and, like, despite the fact that he got all these chances to reflect on himself, and he did reflect on himself, it's weird that despite all of this that I've mentioned, in the end of the story, he still, like, goes berserk and still decides to, like, take down the library and still decides to, like, that he wants to, like, fucking kill everyone and whatnot. And I think it's just such a butchered ending, right? Because, like, at the end of the story, Roland talks about the library and he talks about his experience with it to Angela before he goes on and attacks her. And he says that he's been, like, forcing on this painful smile or whatever, and, like, boo-hoo, he's so emo edgy or whatever. And, like, I just refuse to believe that, right? Because in the library, he kind of, like, found a second chance, right? Like I mentioned before, with Difference cutscene, he kind of found a second chance within the library. You know, he had people who genuinely cared about him, which is, like, it's a rare thing to find in the city, right? It's a rare thing it's rare to form those kinds of relationships in the city. And yet he found people who really cared about him and who really, like, were his friends and everything, right? Like, maybe they were not all, like, besties with him, right? Like, I doubt that Hakma and, like, Tiferet and, like, you know, maybe Yasud were, like, Roland's besties or whatever by the end of the story. But to say that they didn't care about each other at all is just straight up foolish, because they 100% did, man. And, you know, it's just, if you played Library of Arena, you've seen Roland. You've seen him hang out with all these characters. You've seen him genuinely fucking smile for, like, the first time in a long time. You've seen him get drunk with these people, you know? You've seen him, like, fuck around with these people. You've seen him hang out with these people. You've seen him be happy with these people. And yet, despite all of that, and despite all the previous things I mentioned about the city being so much more horrible than and taken so much more away from people than what was taken away from Roland. Despite all of that, he still has this rampage in the end where he tries to like take down the library and whatnot. And his whole story ends up being about him missing his wife, which it's definitely an important part of his story. You know, he's gonna carry that grief forever, as I said, no matter how many friends he has or how much good of a time in the library he had, or how much time it passed or whatever. But him like fully like distorting and like again taking down the whole library over like well, again, I sound evil, but him taking down the whole library because he misses his wife, just it didn't really make sense to me, right? It would make more sense if he like entered the library with his initiative and his reasoning being that he was eventually gonna take it down and get revenge of the world for taking away his wife and for taking away his wife. But it would have been way cooler if he, in the end, decided not to do that, right? And if he, in the end, you know, got a second chance in the city, right? If he got a second chance and you know, decided against his original idea, I think that would have been so much more like meaningful of an ending and so much more impactful, right? Like either we could have had that, or we could have had Roland not show up to the story at all. Because again, like in his current state, his whole story is just about him missing his wife, which again is an important element, but that's not all that his story should be, right? Like his whole story should not just be that he misses his wife, man. Especially in this city, especially in a city like this, right? Especially in a world like this. That should not be his whole character and his whole story. It's an important part, but that should not be everything. So in the end, Roland doesn't really add a whole lot to the story and mostly just takes away from what we could have had. And it just makes me so sad, man, because I know they could have done a lot better. I know they could have done a lot better with his story. And even if his story was perfect, I still would have had some problems with the game. I still don't think it would have quite reached the heights of Lobotomy Corporation, but it would have been a hell of a lot better, dude. It 100% would have been a lot better. A good example of Roland taking away from the story, and like a good example of the story showing us what we could have had without Roland, is Hawkma's cutscenes. Because Hawkma's cutscenes mainly revolve around Angela and Hawkma, right? There's no Roland for most of them. And that makes sense, because Hawkma was like, you know, Angela's pretty much only friend during her life. From the time that she was created to the time that Lobotomy Corporation ended. So it makes sense that they would be pretty close. And there's this really powerful cutscene where, you know, Angela like actually rages against Hawkma and tells him that she hates him and whatnot. And she asks Hawkma to just give her a reason why Hawkma is still loyal to Ain and why he still likes Ain despite everything that he did to her and to him. And Hawkma just doesn't really have an answer, right? Like, to Angela, faith and religion and all of that stuff means nothing. She cannot follow anything, you know, for no reason, because she is a machine. And, you know, having no reason to follow something just doesn't make any sense to her. Having no reason to believe in something makes no sense to her, because zero means nothing to her, because she's a machine. But the Hawkma, he can have just blind faith because he's a human. And he just believes that eventually he will be right about everything about Ain. And he will be right that Ain's plan will eventually come to fruition. And he will be right that, you know, the city will be redeemed and whatnot. And I think it's just such a good cutscene. And a part of the reason why it's good is because there is no Roland in it. Roland doesn't come in and say some stupid shit that adds nothing except filler to the story. And it's just such a good cutscene. It's a really, really good cutscene that gives us both a bit more context to Hawkma's character in general, you know, besides, you know, him being a cuck, you know. It gives us, like, a reason why he's not just a cuck, and instead why he has faith. And it gives us, like, a bit more of a look into Angela's personality as well, and her reasons and her way of thinking and whatnot. And I think it's just such a good cutscene. Because it has no Roland in it, you know? But yeah, my whole point with this whole yap and everything is that if you compare Arena to any other game, it is probably going to be better than that game. However, when you compare it to Lobotomy Corporation, Library of Ruina is truly nothing. Like, it is truly nothing in the face of Lobotomy Corporation. It's like trying to compare the very hungry caterpillar to the fucking Blood Meridian, right? You just simply can't. And another thing that I think Lobotomy Corporation did a lot better than Library of Ruina is the fact that it implemented its features and difficulty into the story a lot better. A part of the reason why Lobotomy Corporation's story hit me so hard personally and made me cry so hard is because the game was difficult, man. The game was almost impossible. Like, it was impossibly difficult. It was a crazy battle to get to that true ending. And the whole time you were fighting for that true ending to give these characters a happy end to their story and to, like, finally put them all to rest and put them out of their misery and stuff. Only for it all to be taken away from you in like the very last second by Angela. And the one thing that I can actually congratulate Library of Ruina on is the fact that it made me go from being a D1 Angela hater from the ending of Lobotomy Corporation to being a D1 Angela lover by the end of Library of Ruina. But again, the reason that Lobotomy Corporation had such an impact on me and made me so emotional is partly because of its difficulty. Because the thing about Lobotomy Corporation is that it's a difficult game, right? If you ever heard of the game or played the game, you would have heard or seen the fact that it's difficult. And the thing about it is that it's not just difficult to appease some god gamer sweats or appease some fucking pro gamers or like be a interesting game to all the hardcore guys out there. It's a hard game because changing and saving the world is hard. If it was an easy task, Lobotomy Corporation would have not existed at all. Lobotomy Corporation, Ruina, Limbus, all those games would have not existed at all if saving the world was an easy task. And especially if saving this hopeless of a fucking world was an easy task. Like, that's the reason the Lobotomy Corporation is hard, not just because it's some kind of a game made for sweats or whatever. Because I'm definitely not a sweat. I'm fucking terrible at both Lobotomy Corporation and Ruina. Because as you see in the background footage, I cheated in Ruina. I cheated in this second run of the game that I did. I just straight up cheated through probably a third of it, right? Or a quarter of it. And the reason that I felt compelled to cheat in the first place is just because Ruina kind of it opposes Lobotomy Corporation in terms of its difficulty, right? Lobotomy Corporation felt difficult for a reason. Meanwhile, Library of Ruina kind of felt difficult for the sake of being difficult. Because, throughout most of this story, we are led to believe that Angela is gonna use the light for a selfish purpose. And, that kind of doesn't make sense why this game is so difficult then. Because, I personally, what I took away from this story is that in the current state of the city, doing the selfish thing is meant to be the easy thing to do, not the hard thing to do. Like, Lobotomy Corporation was a hard game. It was a really difficult game because you were trying to do a really selfless thing. But Library of Ruina, you're led to believe that Angela is going to do a selfish thing. And eventually she doesn't. In the true ending of the game, she doesn't. But you're led to believe for most of the game that she is going to do it, so it doesn't make sense why the game is like that difficult, I'm not saying there should be like an easy game or a baby game. I don't know, maybe this sounds like a stupid ass complaint. You can let me know in the comments if it is a stupid ass complaint. But again, everyone is going to struggle in the city, no matter whether they're selfish or selfless. It's just that the selfless thing is meant to be a lot more harder to do. So I would understand if Library of Ruina was hard. I don't know. I don't know if Ruina even wants to try to upkeep this difficulty integrated in the story thing. But if it did try to keep that difficulty integrated in the story thing, then I would understand if it was a hard game, but not if it was this hard of a game, right? Because again, I don't know. Maybe this is a stupid ass complaint. But yeah, I hope you know what I'm trying to say there. But yeah, anyways, I just think, overall, I think that Lobotomy Corporation in the end was a better experience than Library of Ruina. I just think it had so much more going for it, and it was the first entry in the series, and it was so special to see it for the first time. And then, Library of Ruina came along and did a decent job of, continuing the series of the games. of the game, but at the end it ended up fumbling, and it especially ended up fumbling Roland's character. And I mean, outside of Roland's character, it isn't really Ruina's fault that it's not as enjoyable of a game, at least to me, or not as meaningful of a game. It's more of a fact that like Lobotomy Corporation is just like such a good game that it cannot be beaten. Like that's really the reason that Library of Arena isn't as good of a game as Lobotomy Corporation is. You know, the only fault that the developers and writers really made was with Roland, but outside of that, it's just the fact that Lobotomy Corporation is such a good game, man. But yeah, anyways, that's really my rant about Library of Arena. And I did mention in the beginning of the video that I was going to talk about Limbus for a little bit, and I guess I am. It's not going to be nearly as long as my Arena rant, because I just genuinely don't have a lot to say about Limbus. I think it's a fucking shameful atrocity. You know, the fact that Limbus is even considered a part of the Project Moon franchise, because genuinely, what the fuck? Like, the game has nothing going for it. Limbus Company is a fucking... It's a game, alright? And it's a game that wears the skin of its predecessors. And the only reason it's even remotely that successful of a game is because it builds off of an already good story. And, you know, if you play Limbus, you can just go and find out more about the story of the world by just playing better fucking games like Lobotomy Corporation or Library of Arena. And, you know, Library of Arena is like an 8 out of 10 game objectively, in my opinion. Lobotomy Corporation is an 11 out of 10, in my opinion. And then Limbus Company is just like a, I don't know, fucking 6 out of 10 or something. It's a gacha game that tries to introduce you to all the characters at the same time, but at the same time it can't, because every character has its own unique canto where you're going to find out about their story, but they're crammed all together anyway, and it's just, it just creates a huge fucking mess. And honestly, the story is like, it's just not comparable to Ruina or Lobotomy Corporation at all. Again, like I mentioned before, it's a game that wears the skin of its predecessors, and really the only thing it has going for it is that every Valpurgis night, the developers of Limbus Company can be like, oh, look guys, ooh, look at the jewel and keys. We added fucking Queen of Hatred. You remember the Queen of Hatred? You remember Queen of Hatred from like the previous 2 better games that we made? You remember Queen of Hatred? We added her to Limbus Company, guys. Ooh, look. Go spend your money on Limbus Company. Because it's such a good game, right? Because we have Queen of Hatred in it now. Go check out Limbus Company. We have these elements of the other games that we made in it, and it's just so shameful. It's just really so shameful. Like, I really have no other words for it. I know that Limbus Company was meant to be like a fundraiser for the future games that are going to be coming out in the Project Moon franchise. So I guess I can cut it a little bit of slack by just not thinking about it at all. But it's just really shameful how it's just uses its predecessor games as a fucking fleshlight to just generate as much revenue as possible, and like, you know, occasionally add like Library of Arena or Lobotomy Corporation content to it, and like jingle the keys in your face and be like, hey, look, we added the content of better games in our game, so our game is good too, right? Our game deserves to be a Project Moon game. And it's just like, no. It's just like, no, it fucking doesn't. But that's really all I have to say about Limbus Company. I really don't want to waste my breath in that game any longer than I have to. I'm just... yeah, no. I hate Limbus Company. I hate it, man. It's like a 6 out of 10 game. Which is okay. That's an okay rating, barely. But the fact that it's a part of the Project Moon franchise, which is like my most favorite franchise ever, the fact that this franchise pumped out a fucking 6 out of 10 game for a quick buck, it does make me sad to some extent. It really does. But I guess, I guess that the fucking, you know, gacha lovers out there will just play any game, any fucking slop gacha game, as long as they deem its fucking pull system to be forgiving. And Limbus Company is really forgiving. I think it's the most forgiving gacha game out there, because, you know, you can get pretty much any max out character you want for absolutely free. You don't have to spend a cent on it. I have like fucking, I don't know, like 20 max out characters 20 like maxed out 3-star characters by now, and I have only spent like $20 on the game in the past, so it is really forgiving. But again, it's just disappointing. The only thing I can say is that I can excuse it because it's a fundraiser for the future of Project Moon. But that's really all I have to say. Again, agree or disagree with me in the comments. But that's really it. See you later, everybody. Goodbye.